poor girl dress as man to interview, unaware CEO, see through her and appoint, her as secretary, love came. In a world where appearances often define opportunity, one young woman dared to break the mold, only to find herself tangled in a web of secrets, power, and unexpected emotions. Imagine being so desperate for a chance at a better life that you'd risk everything, even your identity. That's exactly what happened to Maya, a poor but fiercely determined girl who decided to disguise herself as a man just to land an interview with one of the most influential CEOs in the city. Little did she know, this bold move would set off a chain reaction that would change her life forever. What started as a gamble quickly turned into something far more complicated when the sharp-eyed CEO saw through her disguise but chose to keep it a secret. And then, in a twist no one could have predicted, he appointed her as his personal secretary. But here's the real question. Was it purely professional? Or was there something deeper brewing beneath the surface? Maya wasn't born into privilege. Growing up in a small, crumbling apartment on the outskirts of the city, she learned early on that life wouldn't hand her anything easily. Her father passed away when she was just a child, leaving her mother to work long hours at a factory to make ends meet. Despite their struggles, Maya had dreams bigger than anyone around her could imagine. She wanted to rise above poverty, to prove that hard work and intelligence could open doors, even if they were rusty and locked tight. After years of studying late into the night by candlelight, she finally earned a degree in business administration. But when she stepped out into the real world, reality hit hard. No matter how many resumes she sent, no matter how polished her interviews seemed, rejection after rejection left her feeling invisible. It wasn't until she stumbled upon an ad for a high-profile corporate job that desperation pushed her towards a decision she never thought she'd make. The company advertised positions for ambitious individuals ready to climb the corporate ladder, and Maya knew this was her last shot. The problem: the hiring process was notoriously competitive, favoring candidates with connections and polished backgrounds, things Maya lacked. So, in a moment of quiet defiance, she made the choice to dress as a man for the interview, borrowing old clothes from her late uncle and practicing a deeper tone of voice. She transformed herself into Mohan, a confident applicant ready to take on the corporate world. As nerve-wracking as it was, Maya told herself it was all worth it if it meant securing a future for her family. On the day of the interview, she walked into the sleek glass building with her heart pounding like a drum. The air smelled of expensive cologne and ambition, and every step felt heavier than the last. But nothing could have prepared her for what came next. Seated across from her during the interview was Arjun Rao, the enigmatic CEO of the company, known for his piercing gaze and razor-sharp instincts. He was both admired and feared in equal measure. From the moment Maya, or rather Mohan, sat down, Arjun studied her closely. There was something about this candidate that intrigued him, though he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Maybe it was the way he hesitated before answering certain questions. Or perhaps it was the flicker of vulnerability hidden behind those carefully rehearsed responses. Whatever it was, Arjun found himself leaning forward, listening intently. By the end of the session, he had already decided. This person was different. He didn't care about the disguise. Instead, he saw potential he couldn't ignore. What followed was a decision that shocked everyone, including Maya. Instead of dismissing her outright, Arjun offered her the position of his personal secretary. At first, Maya was stunned. Had he figured out her secret? Was this some kind of trap? But as days turned into weeks, she realized he hadn't said a word about her true identity. In fact, He treated her with the same professionalism he extended to everyone else on his team. Yet there were moments, small fleeting glances or lingering pauses in conversation, that made her wonder if he knew more than he let on. Working under his watchful eye became both thrilling and terrifying. Every task she completed felt like walking a tightrope, balancing between maintaining her cover and proving herself worthy of the role she'd fought so hard to earn. As time went on, Maya began to see another side of Arjun. Beneath the stern, exterior and commanding presence lay a man burdened by responsibilities and expectations. Late nights in the office revealed glimpses of vulnerability, moments when he let his guard down and spoke candidly about the pressures of leadership. Slowly, Maya found herself drawn to him, not just because of his charisma or authority, but because of the humanity she saw shining through the cracks. And while she tried to suppress these feelings, telling herself it was impossible and inappropriate, she couldn't deny the growing connection between them. Was it admiration, respect, or was it something stronger, something neither of them was ready to admit? But just as things started to shift, complications arose. Rumors began swirling around the office about the mysterious new secretary who always kept to herself, questions about her past, and her sudden rise to such a prestigious position started to surface. Meanwhile, Arjun faced mounting pressure from the board to focus on expanding the company's reach, leaving little room for distractions. And yet, whenever he looked at Maya, he felt torn. Should he confront her about the truth he suspected? Or should he let her continue playing the role she had created, knowing full well it might unravel at any moment? The tension between them grew palpable, charged with unspoken words and unresolved emotions. Then came the day that changed everything. A critical meeting with international investors loomed ahead, and Arjun needed someone trustworthy by his side. Without hesitation, he turned to Maya, entrusting her with responsibilities far beyond her official duties. For the first time, she felt truly seen, not as Mohan, not as a mere employee, but as someone capable and valuable. But as the hours ticked closer to the meeting, doubts crept in. Could she pull it off without exposing her secret? Would the truth come crashing down when she least expected it? And if it did, how would Arjun react? Love, loyalty, and lies hung precariously in the balance, threatening to tip the scales in ways neither of them could predict. With each passing moment, the stakes grew higher. Maya's courage was tested, not only by the challenges of her role, but also by the undeniable pull she felt toward Arjun. Could she maintain her disguise while navigating the complexities of her heart? And what would happen if the man who saw through her facade decided to reveal what he knew? The answers remained elusive, shrouded in uncertainty and suspense. All Maya could do was hold on tight and hope that somehow, against all odds, she'd find a way to turn this risky gamble into a story of triumph. But as the final pieces of the puzzle fell into place, one thing became clear: nothing would ever be the same again for either of them. Maya's days were a blur of spreadsheets, phone calls, and late-night strategy sessions. Each task she completed brought her closer to proving herself, yet farther from the truth she desperately wanted to keep hidden. The weight of her secret pressed heavily on her chest, especially during moments when Arjun's gaze lingered just a second too long. She often caught herself wondering if he was piecing together clues about her real identity or simply observing her dedication to the job. Either way, his attention made her uneasy and exhilarated all at once. It wasn't just the fear of being discovered that kept her awake at night. It was the growing realization that she admired him more than she should. Beneath his commanding, Presence lay a man burdened by expectations, someone who carried the weight of an entire company on his shoulders, while silently yearning for connection. Arjun, meanwhile, wrestled with his own internal conflict. He prided himself on being perceptive, on reading people like open books. But Mohan, was different. There was something about her that didn't add up. Yet he couldn't bring himself to confront her. Was it because he respected her work ethic? Or was it because he feared losing the spark of intrigue she brought into his otherwise predictable life? As much as he tried to focus on business, his thoughts kept drifting back to her. He noticed the subtle details, the way she hesitated before speaking in meetings, the softness in her eyes when she thought no one was looking, the faint tremor in her hands when she handed him important documents. These little things gnawed at him, urging him to dig deeper, but he held back. For now, he decided to let her stay in her role, hoping time would reveal the answers he sought. The office buzzed with whispers, as Maya's presence became harder to ignore. Co-workers speculated about her background, questioning how someone so unassuming had landed such a coveted position. Some praised her efficiency, while others eyed her with suspicion, convinced there was more to her story. One colleague, Priya, took particular interest in Maya. Priya was sharp, observant, and had a knack for uncovering secrets. Over lunch breaks, she casually probed Maya with questions about her past, her family, and even her hobbies. Though Maya deflected with vague responses, she couldn't shake the feeling that Priya was onto her. Every conversation felt like walking through a minefield, each word carefully chosen to avoid detonation. Still, Maya found solace in Priya's kindness, sensing that beneath her curiosity lay genuine concern. Little did Maya know, Priya harbored her own reasons for wanting to get close to her, a subplot that would soon unravel in unexpected ways. The big meeting approached. Tension mounted not only within the office, but also between Maya and Arjun. The stakes were higher than ever, and both knew failure wasn't an option. Arjun leaned heavily on Maya to prepare presentations, draft speeches, and coordinate logistics, trusting her implicitly, despite his lingering doubts. For Maya, this was both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it gave her a chance to showcase her skills and prove her worth. On the other, it forced her to spend more time around Arjun, making it increasingly difficult to suppress her feelings. Their interactions grew charged with unspoken words, each glance carrying layers of meaning. Neither dared to articulate, yet, amidst the chaos, they developed a rhythm, a silent understanding that transcended their professional roles. It was as if they were two halves of a puzzle, slowly fitting together, though neither fully grasped the picture forming between them. Then came the day of the meeting and everything changed. The conference room buzzed with anticipation as investors from across the globe gathered to hear Arjun's pitch. Maya stood quietly by his side, clutching a folder filled with meticulously prepared notes. Her heart raced as she scanned the room, acutely aware of the eyes watching her every move. This was the moment she'd been working toward, the culmination of weeks of effort and sacrifice. But as Arjun began speaking, something unexpected happened. A technical glitch caused the projector to malfunction, throwing the presentation into disarray. Panic rippled through the room, and for a brief moment, it seemed like all hope was lost. That's when Maya stepped forward, calmly taking control of the situation. With quick thinking and resourcefulness, she improvised a solution. Guiding Arjun through the rest of the presentation without missing a beat, the room erupted in applause. And for the first time, Maya felt a sense of pride she hadn't allowed herself to feel before. But the victory was short-lived. As the meeting concluded and the crowd dispersed, Arjun pulled Maya aside. His expression was unreadable, a mixture of admiration and something else, something darker. "You saved us today," he said, his voice low but steady. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Maya nodded, unsure of how to respond. Before she could speak, he added, "But there's something I need to ask you, something I've been meaning to ask for a while now." Her stomach churned as she braced herself for what was coming next. Had he finally decided to confront her about her true identity? Or was he about to say something entirely different? Something that could shatter the fragile balance they'd built. Meanwhile, outside the boardroom, Priya watched the exchange with narrowed eyes. She had seen enough to suspect that Maya was hiding something significant, and her curiosity had transformed into determination. Earlier that week, she'd stumbled upon an old photo tucked inside Maya's desk drawer. A picture of a young woman who bore a striking resemblance to their mysterious secretary. Convinced she was onto something, Priya vowed to uncover the truth, regardless of the consequences. What she didn't realize, however, was that her actions might set off a chain reaction neither she nor Maya could anticipate. Back in the boardroom, the air thickened with unresolved tension. Arjun's question hung in the space between them. Unanswered, Maya searched his face for clues, trying to gauge whether this was the moment her secret would come to light. Instead, he surprised her by reaching out and placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Whatever it is you're hiding," he said softly, almost tenderly, "you don't have to carry it alone anymore." His words sent a jolt through her, leaving her torn between relief and fear. Relief that he seemed willing to accept her, flaws and all, and fear of what might happen if he truly discovered the extent of her deception. Just as Maya opened her mouth to respond, the door burst open, and Priya stormed in, holding the photograph she'd found. "I think we need to talk," she declared, her tone firm and unyielding. The room froze, the atmosphere crackling with suspense. All eyes turned to Maya, whose face drained of color as she realized the game was up. But instead of panic, a strange calm washed over her. If this was the end, she would face it head on. Taking a deep breath, she looked at Arjun, then at Priya, and finally at the photo clutched in Priya's hand. "Fine," she said, her voice steady, despite the storm raging inside her. "Let's talk." And with those 3 words, the stage was set for a confrontation that would determine not only her fate, but also the future of the delicate bond she shared with Arjun. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Maya. Her heart pounded like a drum, but she stood tall, refusing to let fear dictate her next move. Priya held up the photograph, her expression a mix of triumph and accusation. "This is who you really are, isn't it?" she demanded, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. Arjun's gaze shifted between the 2 women, his brow furrowed in confusion. For a moment, no one spoke. The weight of the revelation hung heavy in the air, pressing down on everyone present. Maya took a step forward, her hands trembling slightly, but her voice steady. "Yes," she admitted, her words ringing out with quiet resolve. "That's me. My name is Maya, not Mohan. I disguised myself because I thought it was the only way I'd get a chance to prove myself." Her confession poured out like a dam, breaking. How she'd grown up poor, how every door had slammed shut in her face, despite her qualifications. How desperation had driven her to take such a drastic step. She didn't try to justify her actions. Instead, she laid bare her vulnerability, hoping for understanding, even if forgiveness felt out of reach. To her surprise, Arjun didn't react with anger or disappointment. Instead, he looked at her with something akin to admiration. You didn't have to lie to succeed here, he said finally, his tone measured but kind. Your work speaks for itself. You've earned your place, not because of a disguise, but because of your talent and determination. His words caught Maya off guard, relief flooding through her like a warm tide. But before she could respond, Priya interjected, her voice, and sharp with frustration. That doesn't change the fact that she deceived us all. What if this affects the company's reputation? Or worse, what if those investors find out? Arjun turned to Priya, his expression firm. Enough, he said, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to making tough decisions. What matters is what happens moving forward. Maya has proven herself invaluable, and I won't let fear of judgment overshadow her contributions. His defense of her was unexpected, not just to Maya, but to everyone in the room. It was clear that his trust in her ran deeper than anyone had anticipated, including Maya herself. As the initial shock wore off, the focus shifted to resolving the situation. Arjun called an emergency meeting with the board to address potential fallout, ensuring transparency without exposing Maya's identity publicly. He framed her actions as a bold move born out of systemic inequality, emphasizing her undeniable skills and dedication. To Maya's astonishment, the board agreed to stand by her, impressed by the way she'd handled the recent crisis during the investor meeting. They saw her not as a fraud, but as a resourceful and capable individual who had risen above adversity. With the immediate threat neutralized, Maya found herself reflecting on everything that had led her to this point. She realized that while her disguise had opened doors, it was her hard work and authenticity that had kept them open. Slowly, she began to rebuild trust with her colleagues, starting with Priya. In a candid conversation over coffee, Maya apologized for misleading her and explained why she'd felt she had no other choice. To her relief, Priya softened, admitting that her curiosity had stemmed from concern rather than malice. Over time, their relationship evolved into a genuine friendship, built on mutual respect and shared experiences. But the most profound change occurred in Maya's dynamic with Arjun. With the truth out in the open, their connection deepened. Freed from the burden of secrecy, Maya allowed herself to be vulnerable around him, sharing parts of her life she'd kept hidden even from herself. Arjun, too, opened up about his struggles, the loneliness of leadership, the pressure to live up to his family's legacy, and the longing for companionship he'd buried beneath years of professionalism. Their bond transformed from one of employer and employee to something far more meaningful. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at the office, Arjun invited Maya to join him on the rooftop garden of the building. The city lights stretched endlessly before them, casting a soft glow over the space. As they stood side by side, Arjun broke the silence. "I've spent my life trying to control everything," he confessed, "but meeting you made me realize that some things are worth letting go for the right person." His words hung in the air, filled with unspoken emotion. Maya looked at him, her heart swelling with a mix of joy and disbelief. When he reached for her hand, she didn't pull away. Their love story unfolded gradually, rooted in mutual respect and understanding. It wasn't perfect. They still faced challenges, both personal and professional, but they navigated them together, stronger as a team. Maya continued to excel in her role, eventually earning a promotion that reflected her true capabilities. Meanwhile, Arjun worked to create a more inclusive workplace culture. Inspired by Maya's journey, together they proved that success wasn't just about titles or wealth. It was about resilience, empathy, and the courage to embrace who you truly are. In the end, Maya's gamble paid off in ways she never imagined. What started as a desperate attempt to survive became a testament to the power of perseverance and authenticity. Her story served as a reminder that sometimes taking a risk, even one fraught with uncertainty, can lead to extraordinary outcomes. And though she never forgot where she came from, she also embraced the future with hope and gratitude, knowing she'd found not just a career, but a purpose and a love that would last a lifetime.